In the 1950s, family dinners were much more than just meals. They were the heartbeat of the home. After a busy day of work, school, and the hustle and bustle of modern life, the dinner table became a place where families came together to share stories, laugh, and savor the comfort of a home-cooked meal. But what did those meals look like? What dishes made their way to the dinner tables of 1950s families in a time when life was both simple and rapidly changing? In this video, we explore 25 forgotten meals from the 1950s. We'll revisit these comforting classics that helped nourish both bodies and hearts, creating lasting memories around the dinner table. 1. Meatloaf with mashed potatoes. There's a reason meatloaf is the quintessential family dinner of the 1950s. It's the warm, comforting dish that feels like a hug on a plate. The savory aroma of seasoned ground beef baking in the oven, topped with a tangy sweet ketchup glaze, fills the entire house. And let's not forget the mashed potatoes. Creamy, fluffy, and buttery, they perfectly balance the heartiness of the meatloaf. A forkful of both together, pure magic. Meatloaf is one of those dishes that transcends generations. It's the kind of meal that feels familiar, the ultimate in everyday comfort food. Back in the 1950s, it was a reliable choice for busy moms looking to feed their families on a budget. Ground beef, breadcrumbs, an egg, a bit of onion, and some seasoning, ingredients that were always within reach and easy to work with. It was a hearty meal that could be stretched to feed a crowd, and if you were lucky, there were leftovers to make sandwiches the next day. During the post-war boom, when families were growing and time was more precious, meatloaf became a go-to dinner option. It was easy to make in advance, easy to serve, and most importantly, easy to clean up after. Meatloaf didn't require fancy skills or ingredients, just the ability to mix and mold. But it was the little touches that made it special. A sprinkle of parsley, a slather of ketchup, and maybe a side of green beans or corn. The simplicity of it was part of its charm, and its enduring popularity proves that sometimes the best meals are the ones that don't try to be anything fancy. A classic meatloaf was also a great way to repurpose leftovers. If you had extra mashed potatoes, a little bit of gravy, or even a couple of vegetables, they could easily be incorporated into the loaf itself. This flexibility made it a dish that fit perfectly into the fast-paced lives of mid-century families. It's not just a meal, it's a tradition, one that reminds us of simpler times when the dinner table was the center of family life. Making meatloaf today is like stepping into a time machine, one that brings the flavors of the 1950s back to life. So, roll up your sleeves, mix your ingredients, and enjoy this timeless dish that was, and still is, loved by so many. 2. Chicken a la king. Imagine sitting down to a steaming bowl of rich, creamy chicken, mushrooms, and bell peppers, all swimming in a velvety white sauce. The moment your spoon hits that delicate sauce and lifts a bite of tender chicken, you're hit with that satisfying, comforting sensation that only a dish like chicken a la king can provide. It's the kind of meal that makes you feel like royalty, even if your dinner table is just a humble kitchen nook. Chicken a la king was a dish that became synonymous with mid-century elegance, yet it was humble enough to be served in homes across America during the 1950s. It was often seen at dinner parties or on the Sunday night family table. A little fancy, but not out of reach for the everyday cook. It was a great way to elevate a simple chicken dinner into something special, yet still manageable for the busy homemaker of the time. The origins of chicken a la king are a bit murky, with various stories floating around. Some say it was created in the late 19th century at a restaurant in New York, while others claim it was named after a wealthy socialite or even a famous hotel chef. Regardless of its true beginnings, by the 1950s, chicken a la king had firmly planted itself in the American culinary canon. Its popularity soared because it combined everything people loved about comfort food: creamy sauces, tender meat, and flavorful vegetables, all wrapped in a beautiful, satisfying dish. In the 1950s, chicken a la king became a convenient go-to meal that could be served in a variety of ways. Whether spooned over rice, pasta, or even a slice of toasted bread, the versatility of this dish made it a favorite. The rich sauce, made with butter, cream, and a hint of sherry, complemented the mild chicken perfectly, while the mushrooms and bell peppers added texture and color, making it as visually appealing as it was delicious. For many families, chicken a la king wasn't just a meal, it was an experience. It required a little more preparation than the everyday casserole, but the result was a dish that felt indulgent without being overly complicated. It was one of those meals that made the family feel like they were sitting at a fancy restaurant without ever having to leave home. Today, it still evokes that sense of nostalgia, of meals that were as much about gathering and enjoying time together as they were about the food itself. 3. Tuna casserole. Picture this. the warm golden crust of a casserole fresh out of the oven, its edges crisped to perfection, while the creamy filling bubbles underneath. As you scoop a generous helping onto your plate, the comforting mix of tender egg noodles, creamy mushroom soup, and flaky tuna melds together in perfect harmony. Each bite brings you back to simpler times, times when a meal like tuna casserole was a reliable, hearty favorite in every family kitchen. Tuna casserole, with its familiar combination of pantry staples, was a go-to meal for busy families in the 1950s. It's the kind of dish that doesn't require fancy ingredients or complicated techniques, just a few basics like canned tuna, egg noodles, and a can of cream of mushroom soup. But what makes it truly special is how all those humble ingredients come together to create something so satisfying, comforting without being overwhelming. In the 1950s, this casserole became the answer to a working mother's prayers. Canned tuna was cheap, easy to store, and loaded with protein, making it an ideal choice for stretching a family meal without breaking the bank. The casserole could be assembled ahead of time, making it perfect for busy weeknights when there wasn't much time to cook. It could feed a crowd, and best of all, it was a dish that everyone, from kids to adults, would happily dig into. But while tuna casserole might seem like a simple dish today, it represented something important in post-war America: resourcefulness. The 1950s saw the rise of convenience foods, and casseroles like this one capitalized on the increasing availability of canned goods and prepackaged ingredients. The days of homemade stocks and sauces were often replaced with quick, easy, and affordable alternatives that didn't sacrifice flavor or family togetherness. This dish was also highly adaptable. You could add peas, carrots, or even crunchy potato chips on top for extra texture. It was a canvas for creativity, and most families had their own spin on it. Whether baked in a Pyrex dish or served from a cast iron skillet, tuna casserole was about comfort and flexibility, making it a quintessential part of 1950s dining. Today, it might carry a bit of nostalgia with it, but the flavors still hold up. It's the kind of meal that brings back memories of kitchen tables crowded with loved ones, sharing a hearty meal after a long day. Fourth, Salisbury steak with brown gravy. There's something about the sizzle of Salisbury steak cooking in the pan that instantly takes you back to the 1950s, when the smell of beef and onions filled the air, and a generous helping of rich brown gravy made the dish feel like a comforting home-style masterpiece. Salisbury steak was a staple in many American households, a dish that combined the simplicity of ground beef with the sophistication of a restaurant-style meal. It wasn't just a dinner. It was an experience that made you feel like you were dining in style without leaving the kitchen. Salisbury steak has roots in the late 19th century, named after Dr. James Salisbury, an American physician who advocated for a meat-heavy diet. But by the 1950s, it had been transformed into a comforting, affordable dinner for families across the country. Ground beef, seasoned with simple ingredients, was shaped into a patty and cooked until golden brown, then smothered in a luscious brown gravy that turned it into a meal worthy of any dinner table. Paired with mashed potatoes or buttered corn, Salisbury steak was the kind of meal that felt like a warm embrace on a chilly evening. What made Salisbury steak so popular in the 1950s was its versatility and affordability. Ground beef was cheap and plentiful, making it an accessible option for families on a budget. It could be prepared quickly, yet it tasted like a dish that had been cooked with care. Unlike traditional steak, which could be expensive and require more precise cooking, Salisbury steak allowed cooks to enjoy the rich flavors of beef without the steep price tag. The brown gravy that covered the Salisbury steak added an extra layer of indulgence. Made from beef drippings, flour, and broth, it was savory and comforting, and it turned every bite into a rich experience. Whether served with mashed potatoes, rice, or steamed vegetables, the gravy brought everything together, making it a dish that felt hearty and filling. For busy families in the 1950s, Salisbury steak was a lifesaver, quick to prepare, satisfying, and sure to please everyone at the table. It was the epitome of post-war comfort food, representing a time when families were learning how to balance convenience with quality, and when every meal was an opportunity to create lasting memories. Today, it still holds a special place in our hearts, reminding us of simpler times when food was made with love and a little bit of gravy. Fifth, waffle breakfast. There's something undeniably nostalgic about the smell of waffles filling the house on a Saturday morning. The crispy edges, fluffy interior, and golden color of each waffle made it look like a little piece of sunshine. Paired with a drizzle of syrup, a pat of butter, and maybe even a dusting of powdered sugar, waffles weren't just a breakfast. They were an experience. They were a treat, a moment to slow down and savor, often shared with the family before the busy weekend began. In the 1950s, Breakfast was an important part of family life. The shift from Depression-era simplicity to the more prosperous post-war days sparked a new enthusiasm for hearty, satisfying breakfast dishes. Waffles, often reserved for weekends or special occasions, became the star of many 1950s breakfast tables. Though syrup was the usual topping, it wasn't unusual to see them dressed with fresh fruit, whipped cream, or even a scoop of ice cream if it was a particularly indulgent day. For families with a waffle iron, the possibilities were endless. The waffle iron, a beloved kitchen gadget of the time, was a symbol of modern convenience. It became an iconic appliance in mid-century homes, embodying the excitement of new technologies. The moment the batter was poured onto the griddle and the iron closed, anticipation filled the air, and when it was opened, a perfectly golden waffle emerged, ready to be topped and enjoyed. Waffle batter was simple: flour, eggs, milk, sugar, and baking powder. It didn't take much to create a breakfast that felt like a treat, even if it was just a regular Saturday. While store-bought Eggo waffles didn't hit the shelves until the 1960s, homemade waffles ruled the kitchen in the 1950s. Families would gather around the table, each person customizing their waffles with favorite toppings. For families in the 1950s, a waffle breakfast wasn't just about food. It was about gathering together, creating memories, and enjoying the simple pleasures of life. It was a comforting, indulgent way to start the weekend, a tradition many still hold dear today. 6. Canned soup and grilled cheese sandwiches. There's no dish more iconic in the world of comfort food than a grilled cheese sandwich paired with a bowl of hot, creamy canned tomato soup. This simple combination evokes memories of cozy kitchens, the sound of soup bubbling on the stove, and the satisfying crunch of golden brown toast with melted cheese oozing out. For families in the 1950s, this wasn't just a meal, it was a lifesaver, a quick and easy solution to feeding the family without sacrificing comfort or flavor. Canned soup, especially Campbell's tomato soup, became a staple in 1950s kitchens. With convenience becoming increasingly important, pre-made soups were a game changer. They were affordable, easy to store, and required minimal preparation. Just heat and serve. For busy families, especially working mothers, canned soups took the guesswork out of mealtime, offering a quick, no-fuss dinner option. When paired with a crispy grilled cheese sandwich, it became the kind of meal everyone could rely on, time and time again. Grilled cheese sandwiches were another favorite for their simplicity and indulgence. Bread and cheese, fried in butter until golden and crispy, were the perfect way to use up leftover bread or cheese. The charm of a grilled cheese sandwich lies in its straightforwardness. No fancy ingredients or complicated techniques, just the perfect balance of a crispy, buttery exterior and a gooey, melty interior. While American cheese was the most common choice, families often experimented with other varieties like cheddar or Swiss. Together, canned soup and grilled cheese sandwiches formed the perfect duo. The creamy, smooth soup balanced the crunch of the sandwich, making each bite a comforting experience. With a hot bowl of soup in hand, the grilled cheese became even more indulgent, especially when dipped into the tomato base. For 1950s families, this meal was a quick dinner, rainy day lunch, or late-night snack. It was hearty, comforting, and simple to prepare. Even today, canned soup and grilled cheese continue to evoke nostalgia, a reminder of times when meals didn't need to be fancy, just satisfying. 7. Jello salad. There's something whimsically nostalgic about a jello salad sitting on the dinner table, its colorful layers gleaming like jewels in the light. Whether it was a festive red, a vibrant green, or even a jiggly rainbow of flavors, jello salads were the show-stopping side dish of many 1950s dinners. Fun, vibrant, and a little bit fancy, these salads were a spectacle of texture, color, and flavor, perfect for a time when food was meant to both look and taste exciting. In the 1950s, jello wasn't just a dessert. It was often incorporated into meals as a salad. Housewives got creative with the wobbly treat, mixing it with fruit, marshmallows, shredded vegetables, and even nuts. The result was a dish that danced between sweet and savory in ways that were uniquely mid-century. Imagine peaches suspended in lime jello, or shredded carrots nestled in raspberry jello. These concoctions were as much about the visual appeal as the flavor, creating an intriguing balance between refreshing and quirky. Jello salads made perfect sense in an era that valued convenience foods. They were inexpensive, easy to prepare, and could be made ahead of time, a great advantage for busy homemakers. Many Jello salads included mayonnaise or whipped cream, which added a creamy richness that turned a simple gelatin dish into something more substantial. And of course, there were many variations: green gelatin filled with peas, bright orange with shredded carrots and walnuts. These combinations offered an unexpected richness that balanced sweetness with savory flavors. Jello salads were especially popular at parties, holiday gatherings, and potlucks, where their vibrant colors could serve as a centerpiece for any buffet. They were an edible conversation starter, showing off creativity and fun. While modern tastes might find them odd, there's no denying that Jello salad was a quintessential part of mid-century American cuisine. Today, they might feel old-fashioned, but the whimsical nature of these glistening, wobbly layers still evokes fond memories of a time when food was as much about joy as it was about nourishment. 8. Spaghetti and meatballs. If there's one dish that can evoke a sense of both nostalgia and comfort, it's the classic spaghetti and meatballs. The long strands of pasta, coated in a rich, savory tomato sauce, paired with juicy meatballs that practically melt in your mouth. It's the kind of meal that makes you feel like you're being wrapped in a warm, hearty embrace. For many families in the 1950s, this was a favorite Sunday dinner or a special treat during the week, a dish that was both filling and flavorful. Spaghetti and meatballs have their roots in Italian-American cuisine, but by the 1950s, they had firmly cemented themselves in the American dinner rotation. The post-war era saw an increase in the popularity of Italian food, which was embraced for its rich flavors and family-oriented tradition of sharing large, home-cooked meals. While spaghetti itself was already a familiar staple, the addition of meatballs elevated it to something truly special, a complete meal in one bowl with layers of flavor from the tender meatballs and the zesty tomato sauce. The beauty of spaghetti and meatballs lies in its simplicity. You don't need exotic ingredients to make this dish sing. Ground beef, breadcrumbs, garlic, and eggs are combined to create meatballs that are both satisfying and affordable. Simmered in a homemade tomato sauce made with canned tomatoes, olive oil, garlic, and herbs, this dish brings the whole family to the table in a way few others can. The meatballs are usually browned first to give them that delicious crust before they are slow cooked in the sauce, allowing the flavors to meld together and create a comforting, hearty meal. In the 1950s, spaghetti and meatballs were also a way to stretch the family budget. Ground beef was a cost-effective protein, and the meal could feed a crowd without breaking the bank. Plus, leftovers were always welcome. The meatballs could be used in sandwiches or served again the next day, making it an ideal dish for a busy family. It also became a popular choice for dinner parties, as the rich flavors and satisfying nature of the dish made it feel a little more festive. Today, spaghetti and meatballs are still beloved by many, and they continue to bring that same feeling of nostalgia. For those who grew up in the 1950s, it's a reminder of a time when family dinners were about comfort, connection, and, of course, delicious food. 9. Beef stew. Beef stew is the epitome of comfort food, a hearty, warm dish that has graced family tables for generations. Its origins date back centuries, but it became particularly popular in the 1950s when families sought affordable and filling meals to feed the growing household. This dish has remained a favorite for its rich, savory flavors and its ability to transform inexpensive cuts of meat into a tender, flavorful meal that can feed a crowd. Beef stew is traditionally made with a few simple ingredients, many of which are pantry staples. The base is typically cubed beef stew meat, often taken from tougher cuts such as chuck or brisket, which benefit from slow cooking to become tender and flavorful. Along with the beef, common vegetables like carrots, onions, and potatoes are added to create a well-rounded meal. Celery, garlic, and sometimes parsnips or peas add an extra layer of flavor and texture. The liquid base is usually beef broth, which infuses the stew with a deep, meaty flavor. Herbs like thyme, bay leaves, and rosemary are added to enhance the aroma and taste, and a dash of salt and pepper rounds out the seasoning. Some variations may include a splash of red wine or a dollop of tomato paste for added depth, though the classic version focuses on the pure, comforting flavors of the beef and vegetables. To prepare beef stew, the beef is first browned in a large pot, often with a little oil, to develop a rich, caramelized crust on the meat. This step adds a layer of complexity to the stew, enhancing its depth of flavor. After the beef is browned, the vegetables are added and sautéed briefly, allowing them to soften and release their natural sweetness. The liquid is then poured in, covering the ingredients, and the stew is brought to a simmer. The key to a perfect beef stew is patience. Once simmering, the stew is allowed to cook low and slow for at least an hour, often up to 2 or 3, depending on the cut of meat and desired tenderness. The slow cooking process allows the beef to break down and become melt-in-your-mouth tender, while the vegetables absorb the savory broth, creating a comforting and satisfying meal. Beef stew is often served with crusty bread or over a bed of mashed potatoes to soak up the rich, flavorful broth. Its versatility and hearty nature make it a perfect meal for chilly evenings, and it's often even better the next day as the flavors continue to meld and deepen. Whether served on a weeknight or for a special family gathering, beef stew remains a beloved classic that stands the test of time. 10. Hot dogs and sauerkraut. There are few dishes as quintessentially American as a hot dog, and when paired with tangy sauerkraut, it becomes a meal that's both comforting and a little bit adventurous. For families in the 1950s, hot dogs and sauerkraut were the perfect go-to meal, easy to prepare, affordable, and satisfying. It was the kind of meal that could be quickly thrown together for a weeknight dinner or served at backyard barbecues with friends and neighbors, filling the air with the mouth-watering scent of sizzling meat and the faint, salty aroma of cabbage. Hot dogs themselves have a rich history, but in the 1950s, they had reached their cultural peak. With the rise of convenience foods and ready-to-eat options, the humble hot dog became a symbol of post-war American culture. It was the epitome of fast, no-fuss food, a dish that didn't require much thought or preparation, but delivered in terms of both flavor and ease. Whether you were grabbing a quick bite for lunch or putting together a casual dinner, hot dogs fit the bill perfectly. The addition of sauerkraut to the hot dog was a nod to Eastern European influences that were common in American kitchens during the 1950s. Sauerkraut, made from fermented cabbage, adds a tart, tangy contrast to the rich, savory flavor of the hot dog. The slight crunch of the cabbage against the softness of the hot dog and bun created a satisfying texture, while the sharpness of the sauerkraut helped cut through the richness of the meat. For many families, hot dogs and sauerkraut were a simple, economical way to feed the family. Hot dogs were inexpensive, and a jar of sauerkraut could go a long way. This dish was perfect for large families or for those who needed to stretch a meal. While some families enjoyed their hot dogs simply with ketchup and mustard, others got creative, adding sauerkraut, onions, or even cheese for extra flavor. In the 1950s, hot dogs and sauerkraut were especially popular at cookouts, sporting events, or as a quick lunch. It was a meal that could be made on the stovetop, grilled, or even steamed. No matter how you made it, it was always easy, filling, and delicious. And while modern tastes may have evolved, the simple satisfaction of a hot dog with sauerkraut still carries that nostalgic appeal, reminding us of simpler times when meals were made with ease, love, and just a bit of zest. 11th. Beef stroganoff. When you think of classic comfort food, there's a good chance that beef stroganoff comes to mind. Rich, creamy, and indulgent, this dish was a staple in many 1950s homes, offering a touch of European elegance with the kind of down-to-earth practicality that made it perfect for the post-war American kitchen. It was a dish that could turn an ordinary weeknight dinner into something a little more special, yet it didn't require much more effort than the everyday meals of the time. Beef stroganoff originated in Russia in the mid-19th century, but it was in the United States during the 1950s that it gained widespread popularity. With the growing influence of European and international cuisines on American dining, beef stroganoff was embraced as a sophisticated yet simple dish that could easily be made with ingredients that were readily available. Tender strips of beef were simmered in a rich, creamy sauce made from sour cream, beef broth, onions, and mushrooms. Nothing too fancy, but everything about it felt indulgent. For many families in the 1950s, beef stroganoff was an affordable way to serve a hearty, flavorful dinner. The dish typically used less expensive cuts of beef, such as sirloin or round steak, which, when sliced thin and cooked quickly, became tender and flavorful. The cream-based sauce made the dish feel luxurious, especially when served over egg noodles, rice, or even mashed potatoes. It was a meal that worked well for a dinner party or a family gathering, but it was also simple enough to prepare on a weeknight. One of the reasons beef stroganoff was so popular in the 1950s was its versatility. While the classic recipe called for sour cream and beef broth, many variations existed depending on regional preferences or what was available. Some cooks added mustard or a splash of wine for added depth, while others used cream of mushroom soup as a shortcut to achieve the creamy texture. Either way, it was a dish that offered a combination of savory and tangy flavors, creating a balanced and comforting meal. Even today, beef stroganoff continues to evoke that sense of nostalgia. It's a reminder of a time when meals were about more than just food. They were about creating memorable moments around the table. Whether served at a special occasion or just a cozy family dinner, beef stroganoff was a beloved part of 1950s cuisine and remains a cherished dish for many. 12th. Creamed tuna on toast. Imagine a warm slice of toast, golden and crisp, topped with a creamy, savory tuna sauce, speckled with bits of peas and seasoned just right. It's simple, it's quick, and it's everything you want on a busy evening when you're craving something hearty without much fuss. Creamed tuna on toast was a beloved meal in 1950s kitchens, a meal that combined the convenience of canned tuna with a smooth, comforting white sauce to create a dish that felt both satisfying and economical. Tuna, a pantry staple in many households, had a special place in mid-century cooking, especially in the post-war era when families were trying to make meals stretch further. Tuna was affordable, packed with protein, and easy to store. Canned tuna was often used in everything from casseroles to sandwiches, but one of the most popular ways to serve it was in this comforting, creamy dish. By combining tuna with a rich, creamy sauce made from milk, butter, flour, and a bit of seasoning, you had a meal that could be prepared in mere minutes, but still felt like a hearty dinner. In the 1950s, time-saving ingredients like canned soup and prepared sauces were making life easier in the kitchen, and creamed tuna on toast was no exception. Often, cooks would use a can of cream of mushroom or cream of celery soup to create the sauce, making it even quicker to pull together. It was the kind of meal that worked perfectly for busy nights, whether you had a house full of kids or just needed to make something fast after a long day at work. The creamy sauce would be spooned generously over toast, creating a warm, comforting dish that was both filling and affordable. The beauty of creamed tuna on toast lay in its versatility. While the basic recipe called for tuna, bread, and a creamy sauce, it was often dressed up with a few extra ingredients like frozen peas, onions, or a dash of lemon juice. Sometimes, cooks would add a sprinkle of cheese on top for extra richness, and for those who had it, a side of mashed potatoes or a salad made this simple dish feel even more complete. Today, creamed tuna on toast remains a reminder of simpler times when meals didn't need to be complicated to be delicious. It's a dish that brings back memories of family dinners shared around the table and a taste of nostalgia that still satisfies. 13. Pork chops with applesauce. There's a certain magic in the combination of savory pork chops paired with the sweet, tangy bite of applesauce. It's a dish that feels both comforting and special, an unexpected yet perfect pairing that became a family favorite in 1950s kitchens across America. Pork chops with applesauce were often served as a simple, elegant dinner that didn't require complicated ingredients or techniques, but still felt like a meal to be cherished. In the post-war years, pork was one of the most affordable meats available, making it a popular choice for family dinners. The 1950s saw a trend toward more diverse meal pairings, and the sweet and savory combination of pork and applesauce became one of those beloved duos. Pork chops, typically pan-fried or baked to golden perfection, were the hearty main dish, while the applesauce brought a refreshing contrast. The sweetness of the applesauce complemented the richness of the pork, creating a balanced flavor profile that was easy to love. The beauty of pork chops with applesauce was its simplicity. Pork chops were inexpensive, easy to cook, and available year-round. While the chops were often seasoned with just salt, pepper, and a little garlic or onion, they could be cooked in a variety of ways, whether grilled, broiled, or pan-fried. The applesauce, on the other hand, was often homemade, made with fresh apples, sugar, and a touch of cinnamon, though canned applesauce was also commonly used for convenience. The homemade version, though, was prized for its sweetness and homemade warmth, adding a nostalgic touch to the dish. This combination also had a special place on the holiday table. While it may have been a casual weeknight dinner, pork chops with applesauce was often dressed up for special occasions, especially when paired with sides like mashed potatoes, green beans, or roasted vegetables. The sweetness of the applesauce played off the richness of the pork, turning a simple meal into something that felt festive and memorable. For families in the 1950s, pork chops with applesauce were a meal that was easy to make, affordable, and consistently satisfying. It's a dish that continues to evoke nostalgia, representing a time when the joy of cooking was rooted in simplicity, creativity, and a good balance of flavors. Today, the dish remains a comforting reminder of those mid-century family dinners, hearty, homey, and always just the right amount of sweet and savory. 14th, potato salad. Potato salad, simple, creamy, and packed with comfort, was a quintessential side dish that graced nearly every 1950s family gathering, from casual dinners to festive barbecues. This humble dish was a favorite because it brought together the heartiness of potatoes with the cool, refreshing bite of a tangy dressing. Whether served alongside a plate of fried chicken, burgers, or at a holiday picnic, potato salad became an enduring symbol of American cooking in the 1950s, offering both flavor and nostalgia in every bite. Potato salad has deep roots in American cuisine, with variations found in nearly every region. but by the 1950s, it had become a reliable dish that was as much a part of everyday family life as it was a star at potlucks and picnics. The beauty of potato salad is in its versatility. While some families stuck with the classic creamy version made with mayonnaise and mustard, others experimented by adding ingredients like pickles, celery, or hard-boiled eggs to give the salad texture and flavor. The dish could be as simple or as elaborate as the cook desired. For the busy homemakers of the 1950s, potato salad was a practical dish. Potatoes were inexpensive, and mayonnaise and mustard were pantry staples. The salad could be prepared ahead of time, chilled, and served cold, making it an ideal choice for family gatherings or busy evenings when there wasn't much time for preparation. Plus, it could be made in large batches, feeding a crowd without breaking the budget. The creamy dressing, often made from mayonnaise, a dash of mustard, a touch of vinegar, and a pinch of salt and pepper, coated the tender potatoes, binding all the ingredients together in a satisfying, velvety mixture. The potatoes themselves, soft yet firm, absorbed the flavors of the dressing, making every bite feel indulgent. Families often customized their potato salad by adding a variety of mix-ins, from crunchy celery and onions to sweet pickles or dill, creating their own personal signature version of this beloved dish. Potato salad also had a way of bringing people together. It was a dish that was often passed around the table at summer cookouts, shared among friends and family, and eaten alongside laughter and conversation. It was a dish that, while simple, was loaded with memories of warm days, good food, and the kind of gatherings that remind us of simpler times. Today, potato salad continues to be a favorite, a nostalgic reminder of those 1950s family meals. 15th, shepherd's pie. Shepherd's pie is the kind of meal that feels like a cozy blanket on a cold night, warm, hearty, and comforting. In the 1950s, this classic dish became a staple in many American homes, offering a satisfying and affordable way to transform humble ingredients into a filling meal. Combining seasoned ground meat with a creamy layer of mashed potatoes that baked up golden and crispy at the edges, it was simple, yet undeniably delicious. While shepherd's pie originated in the British Isles, by the 1950s it had become a beloved comfort food in American kitchens. Traditionally made with lamb, the American version often used ground beef, a more accessible and affordable ingredient for families at the time. The beauty of shepherd's pie lies in its versatility. It could be made with whatever vegetables were on hand, peas, carrots, onions, either tucked into the savory meat filling or layered beneath the mashed potatoes for extra texture and flavor. For busy families in the 1950s, shepherd's pie was an ideal dish. Ground beef was inexpensive, and the recipe made great use of leftovers, a hallmark of 1950s cooking. If you had leftover mashed potatoes from another meal, you could easily turn them into a hearty shepherd's pie. This made it not only a practical, but also a resourceful dish, perfect for a time when stretching ingredients was key to feeding a family without wasting food. Its single-dish presentation made it easy to prepare, bake, and serve to a hungry family at the end of a long day. The layers of meat, vegetables, and mashed potatoes created a perfect balance of flavors and textures. The rich, savory meat filling, often cooked with onions, garlic, and seasoned with herbs like thyme or rosemary, was complemented by the creamy mashed potatoes. When baked, the potatoes would crisp slightly on top, adding a satisfying crunch to the soft filling. Shepherd's pie wasn't just a meal, it was an expression of resourcefulness and heart, offering a warm, filling dish that brought families together. Today, it continues to evoke the same comforting feeling, reminding us of a simpler time when food didn't need to be complicated to be nourishing. 16th, sloppy joes. There's something wonderfully nostalgic about a sloppy joe. Its savory, tangy, and slightly sweet filling piled high between two soft, squishy buns, just waiting to make a mess. A true 1950s classic, the sloppy joe was the epitome of casual comfort food. Quick, easy, and guaranteed to satisfy a hungry family after a busy day, this messy sandwich became a beloved staple in many American homes, both for dinner and as a go-to lunch option. The origins of the sloppy joe are somewhat debated, but by the 1950s, it had firmly cemented itself as an iconic American dish. Typically made with ground beef, ketchup, onions, and a few simple seasonings, it was a perfect example of the convenience-driven cooking style that emerged during the post-war boom. Ingredients like canned tomato sauce, ketchup, and even barbecue sauce became the secret weapons that turned a humble serving of ground beef into something special. A dash of mustard or Worcestershire sauce added just the right amount of tang, making each bite irresistible. For busy families in the 1950s, sloppy joes were the perfect answer to "What's for dinner?" They were easy to make and didn't require many ingredients. The ground beef could be quickly browned, and the sauce stirred in and simmered in mere minutes. No fancy cooking equipment was necessary, just a pan, a spatula, and a craving for a warm, satisfying meal. Plus, they were great for feeding a crowd, whether for a family gathering, picnic, or a quick weeknight dinner. The sloppy Joe also represented the practicality and creativity of 1950s cooking. As families balanced convenience with homemade meals, the sloppy Joe offered a versatile and fun dish. Some cooks added bell peppers, while others threw in brown sugar for extra sweetness. The dish was forgiving, allowing for adjustments based on what was available in the pantry. The joy of eating a sloppy Joe came from its messy, no-fuss nature. It was a dish meant to be enjoyed without worrying about being neat. The combination of the sweet, tangy sauce and tender beef between a soft bun made it comforting then and just as satisfying today. Sloppy Joes will always remind us of a simpler time when meals didn't need to be fancy to bring joy. 17. Beef and bean burritos. In the 1950s, American cuisine was expanding, and many families began embracing international flavors, especially those from Mexican-American neighbors. Beef and bean burritos quickly became a beloved dish, offering a delicious and adventurous way to add vibrant, savory flavors to family meal rotations. Simple, hearty, and satisfying, these burritos combined protein, beans, and spices, all wrapped in a warm flour tortilla. Although burritos are a traditional Mexican dish, by the 1950s, they had evolved with an American twist. The version that became so popular in American kitchens was filled with seasoned ground beef, refried beans, and sometimes cheese or other toppings. For families, particularly in the southwestern United States, burritos were an easy-to-make meal that was both affordable and filling. The humble flour tortilla was the perfect vessel to hold all these savory ingredients. For busy families in the 1950s, beef and bean burritos were a practical solution for nights when everyone needed to eat quickly. Ground beef was both inexpensive and versatile, making it a go-to ingredient for everything from tacos to casseroles. Combined with beans, a cheap and protein-packed food, it became a filling meal that would satisfy the entire family. Refried beans, with their creamy texture, added richness, while seasoned beef brought a savory depth of flavor. The beauty of the burrito was its flexibility. Once the beef and beans were cooked, it was as simple as spooning the mixture onto a tortilla and rolling it up. Families often added their own personal touch, incorporating ingredients like shredded cheese, salsa, lettuce, or sour cream. Some even made a batch of homemade enchilada sauce to drizzle over the top before baking them, creating a baked burrito variation. This adaptability made it easy to fit the tastes of any family. For many, beef and bean burritos evoke fond memories of the 1950s. They were practical, affordable, and absolutely delicious. A simple meal that provided the perfect balance of comfort and excitement. Today, they remain a favorite, still timeless, satisfying, and just as enjoyable as they were then. 18. Corned beef hash. There's something wonderfully comforting about a plate of corned beef hash. Its crispy edges, savory aroma, and hearty flavor make it a meal that sticks with you long after the last bite. For many families in the 1950s, corned beef hash was a breakfast or dinner staple, often served with eggs cooked to your liking. It was one of those dishes that could be whipped up quickly, using leftovers or simple pantry staples, making it the perfect meal for busy families during the post-war era. Corned beef hash has its roots in using leftovers, which was especially important in the 1950s when home cooks sought to stretch their food budgets. After a large meal of corned beef, the leftovers could be transformed into a new dish by chopping the meat and mixing it with potatoes and onions. The beauty of corned beef hash was its simplicity. Canned corned beef was affordable and widely available, and when combined with chopped potatoes and seasoning, it became a flavorful, filling meal. Although it was often served for breakfast, it easily transitioned into a comforting dinner option. The beauty of corned beef hash lies in its versatility. While the core ingredients of corned beef, potatoes, and onions remained the same, home cooks had plenty of room to get creative. Some families added bell peppers or carrots for color and texture, while others stirred in garlic or thyme for added flavor. The potatoes, diced and fried until crispy, provided the perfect contrast to the tender, salty corned beef. Topped with a sunny-side-up egg, corned beef hash was a meal that brought warmth and satisfaction to any table. For busy families in the 1950s, corned beef hash was a practical dish that helped reduce food waste and made the most of leftovers. It was easy to prepare and could feed a crowd without much fuss. Whether served as a quick breakfast before school or a hearty dinner at the end of the day, Corned beef hash brought people together, comforting, hearty, and always delicious. Even today, corned beef hash carries that same nostalgic warmth. It's a dish that reminds us of simpler times, when meals didn't need to be complex to feel like home. 19. Shrimp scampi. Shrimp scampi was a dish that brought a touch of sophistication to the 1950s dinner table, yet it remained accessible enough to become a family favorite. Rich, buttery, garlicky, and indulgent, this dish made shrimp the star, with the aromatic garlic and a hint of lemon, transforming it into something special. While shrimp scampi had its origins in Italian-American cuisine, by the 1950s, it had firmly established itself as a beloved meal in many American homes, especially in those households looking to bring a bit of elegance to their weekday meals without a lot of extra effort. In the 1950s, seafood, and especially shrimp, began to find its way into more kitchens. As the convenience of frozen foods grew, shrimp became easier to find and store, making it a more accessible option for families. Shrimp scampi, with its simple yet flavorful ingredients, was the perfect dish to showcase this newfound seafood. The combination of shrimp, butter, garlic, and lemon was both rich and refreshing, creating a delicate balance of flavors that felt indulgent but not overwhelming. For busy families looking for a quick dinner that felt fancy, shrimp scampi was the answer. The shrimp, often sautéed in butter and olive oil, absorbed the garlicky goodness while staying tender and juicy. A squeeze of lemon and a sprinkle of parsley finished the dish, adding a touch of brightness to the richness of the sauce. While the original dish often called for pasta, rice, or crusty bread to soak up the flavorful sauce, it was versatile enough to be served with whatever side dishes were on hand. What made shrimp scampi particularly popular in the 1950s was its simplicity. The dish didn't require a lot of complicated ingredients or techniques, just shrimp, butter, garlic, and a few seasonings. It was easy to prepare and didn't take long to cook, making it ideal for a busy weeknight when you wanted something a little more special. Shrimp scampi could be made in a single skillet, and because of its quick preparation time, it was a perfect meal to whip up after a long day at work. Today, shrimp scampi remains a comforting dish that evokes a sense of nostalgia. It's the kind of meal that brings a bit of elegance to the table without sacrificing ease, just as it did in the 1950s. Whether served on a special occasion or for a cozy weeknight dinner, shrimp scampi is a reminder that sometimes the simplest ingredients can create the most delicious results. 20. Baked ziti. Baked ziti is the ultimate comfort food, a hearty, cheesy, and satisfying dish that's perfect for family dinners, potlucks, and even holiday gatherings. This classic Italian-American dish gained popularity in the 1950s, providing a warm, filling meal that could feed a crowd without breaking the bank. The beauty of baked ziti lies in its simplicity, a combination of pasta, marinara sauce, and melted cheese. What could be more inviting than that? For families in the 1950s, it became a go-to dish because it was easy to prepare, delicious, and could be made in large batches to serve a whole family. Ziti, a tube-shaped pasta, is the star of this dish. When baked in the oven, the ziti absorbs all the wonderful flavors of the marinara sauce and cheese, creating a perfectly balanced bite every time. The sauce, typically made from canned tomatoes, garlic, onions, and Italian herbs like oregano and basil, provides the perfect base for the cheesy, gooey topping. Often, ricotta cheese, mozzarella, and parmesan were layered together to create that iconic creamy, melty texture that makes baked ziti so irresistible. For busy 1950s families, baked ziti was the ideal meal. It could be assembled ahead of time and baked when it was time for dinner, making it a fantastic choice for those days when you didn't have a lot of time to cook. Plus, it was a great way to use up leftovers. If there was extra marinara sauce or cheese, it could be incorporated into the ziti, making it even more flavorful. This dish was often served with a side of garlic bread or a simple salad, making it the perfect, complete meal. Baked ziti was also a crowd pleaser, which made it an ideal choice for potlucks, family gatherings, or even special occasions. It was filling enough to serve a crowd, and everyone, from children to adults, loved the combination of tender pasta, savory sauce, and creamy cheese. The dish also had the benefit of being flexible. Some families added meatballs or sausage to their ziti for a heartier meal, while others kept it vegetarian. The beauty of baked ziti was that it could be customized to suit any taste or occasion. Today, baked ziti remains a beloved dish for many reasons. It's comforting, easy to make, and filled with the flavors of home. Whether served for a special occasion or a casual weeknight dinner, it's a reminder of the simplicity and joy that defined 1950s family meals. 21st, clam chowder. Clam chowder is one of those timeless dishes that captures the essence of comfort food, rich, creamy, and warm, perfect for cozying up on a cold day. In the 1950s, clam chowder became a popular choice for families looking for a hearty, satisfying meal. With its blend of tender clams, potatoes, onions, celery, and a velvety broth, clam chowder offered both nourishment and warmth, making it a favorite for dinner tables, especially during the cooler months. While New England clam chowder, a creamy version, was the most common in the 1950s, the dish itself has a long history, particularly in the coastal regions of America, where fresh clams were readily available. The 1950s saw a rise in the popularity of canned soups and convenience foods, and clam chowder was no exception. Many households relied on canned clam chowder, but homemade versions, often with fresh clams or even clam juice from a can, were just as common. What made clam chowder so appealing to families was its simplicity and the way it combined humble ingredients into something that felt rich and indulgent. The potatoes, softened in the broth, added heartiness to the dish, while the onions and celery brought in savory depth. The key ingredient, of course, was the clams, which contributed a delicate seafood flavor that made the chowder feel both comforting and sophisticated. In many households, clam chowder was often served with crackers or a piece of warm, buttered bread, which added the perfect crunchy contrast to the smooth, creamy soup. For some families, a side of coleslaw or a green salad rounded out the meal. On special occasions, it might even be served in a bread bowl, further enhancing the sense of indulgence and satisfaction. The 1950s homemaker, always looking for ways to make family dinners easy yet filling, found clam chowder to be the perfect solution. It was a meal that could be prepared in advance, made in one pot, and served up to a crowd with little fuss. And while it might seem like a more fancy dish, clam chowder was also quite affordable, especially if using canned clams or the more economical versions. Today, clam chowder continues to be a beloved comfort food, reminding us of simpler times when food brought families together and meals were about warmth, nourishment, and a little bit of nostalgia. 22nd, stuffed bell peppers. Stuffed bell peppers are a classic comfort food that gained widespread popularity in the 1950s, becoming a family favorite due to their ease, versatility, and satisfying nature. These vibrant, colorful peppers were stuffed with a savory mixture of ground meat, rice, and seasonings, then baked until tender and topped with melted cheese, making them a complete meal that appealed to both children and adults alike. For busy families in the 1950s, stuffed bell peppers were a smart way to stretch ingredients and create a hearty dish that felt like a special treat. The beauty of stuffed bell peppers lies in their simplicity and adaptability. Ground beef was commonly used as the filling, but ground turkey or pork could easily be substituted, depending on what was available or on sale. Rice, often white or sometimes brown, was mixed into the meat, acting as a binder while adding bulk to the dish, making it even more filling. Onions, garlic, and herbs added flavor, while a sprinkle of salt and pepper helped tie everything together. Some cooks even added a touch of tomato sauce or diced tomatoes to the filling, which gave the peppers a juicy, flavorful kick. Once the filling was prepared, the bell peppers, typically red, green, or yellow, were hollowed out and stuffed with the mixture, then topped with a little cheese before being baked in the oven. The result was a meal that was hearty, flavorful, and packed with nutrients. The tender, slightly sweet bell peppers provided the perfect vessel for the savory filling, while the cheese on top added a deliciously creamy finish. Stuffed bell peppers were also incredibly versatile. You could easily change the filling based on what you had on hand, substituting vegetables for some of the meat, adding different spices for variety, or even using different cheeses to suit your family's tastes. The dish could be made ahead of time and popped in the oven when it was time to eat, which made it perfect for busy evenings. Leftovers could be reheated the next day, ensuring no food went to waste. For families in the 1950s, stuffed bell peppers were a comforting, hearty meal that felt both homey and a little bit fancy, thanks to their vibrant presentation and the love put into making them. Today, they remain a beloved dish, reminding us of simpler times when meals were about using what was available to create something both satisfying and memorable. 23. Liver and onions. Liver and onions was a staple in the 1950s, often featured as a nutritious and hearty meal at American dinner tables. While it might elicit mixed reactions today, it was a beloved and frequent part of weekly family meals during that time. Post-World War II families focused on raising healthy children, and organ meats like liver were prized for their nutritional value, rich in iron, vitamin A, B, B12, and protein. It was considered a superfood long before the term gained popularity, with health professionals encouraging its inclusion in diets for growing children and expectant mothers, especially in an era before vitamin supplements were common. The dish was simple yet flavorful. Liver, usually beef, pork, or veal, was thinly sliced, soaked in milk to tone down its strong flavor, and then dredged in flour and pan-fried until golden. Onions were caramelized in butter or bacon fat until soft and golden. The liver and onions were then combined, often with Worcestershire sauce or gravy to finish. Typically served with mashed potatoes and canned vegetables like green beans or carrots, it was a filling, economical, and comforting meal. Liver and onions wasn't just about nourishment. It was also a practical choice for housewives in an era that valued frugality. Organ meats were affordable, especially compared to other cuts of meat, and this dish could be made quickly without requiring complex ingredients or equipment. It also appealed to those who had grown up during the Depression and wartime rationing, offering both familiarity and comfort. However, as America entered the 1970s and 80s, tastes shifted. Health trends began to favor leaner meats and lower cholesterol, and liver's strong flavor lost favor with younger generations. Fast food and prepackaged meals became more popular, and liver became less common on family menus. Despite this, liver and onions have made a small comeback among foodies and nostalgic eaters. While it may be prepared with modern twists, it remains a reminder of an earlier era when meals were simple, affordable, and deeply connected to family traditions. 24. Deviled eggs. Deviled eggs were a popular dish at 1950s family gatherings, offering simplicity, elegance, and crowd-pleasing flavor. These bite-sized appetizers became a staple at dinner parties, potlucks, and holiday feasts during an era focused on quick, easy, and visually appealing dishes. Housewives sought recipes that could be made in advance, were easy to transport, and could serve many guests. Deviled eggs fit these needs perfectly, offering a tasty treat that could be enjoyed while mingling. Made from hard-boiled eggs, deviled eggs are prepared by removing the yolks, mashing them, and mixing them with ingredients like mayonnaise, mustard, salt, pepper, and vinegar. A dash of paprika is often added for color and flavor. Variations, such as adding relish, pickle juice, or cayenne pepper, were common, allowing each family to personalize their recipe. The yolk filling could also be spiced up with ingredients like bacon bits, chives, or shrimp. The appeal of deviled eggs in the 1950s was rooted in their versatility and convenience. They could be prepared in large quantities, making them ideal for parties and gatherings. The dish was easy to serve and required minimal presentation, often garnished with paprika or parsley. With the rise of processed foods and new kitchen gadgets, making deviled eggs became even more accessible, and store-bought mayonnaise and mustard made preparation quicker. Deviled eggs were considered sophisticated yet simple, embodying the post-war era's focus on elevating everyday meals. Their popularity peaked in the 1950s, but they've remained a classic dish over the years. Today, deviled eggs still evoke nostalgia for family gatherings and festive occasions, continuing to be a beloved treat that adds a touch of retro charm to any table. 25th. Banana cream pie. Banana cream pie is the epitome of old-fashioned, indulgent dessert. Its smooth, creamy filling, made with rich vanilla custard and sweet, ripe bananas, all nestled in a buttery pie crust, makes it the kind of dessert you remember with fondness. For families in the 1950s, this pie wasn't just a sweet treat. It was a showstopper, often served at special gatherings, holiday dinners, or simply as a way to brighten up an ordinary weeknight. With its perfect balance of flavors and textures, banana cream pie had a place in nearly every American home, offering a little slice of sweetness and nostalgia. In the 1950s, banana cream pie became increasingly popular as packaged ingredients, like instant vanilla pudding, made it easier than ever to prepare. While some recipes called for a homemade custard, others used a shortcut with the instant mix, making it a quick and accessible dessert, even for busy homemakers. The key to the pie's charm was its simplicity: a buttery, flaky pie crust, a smooth custard made with milk, sugar, and eggs, and slices of fresh banana that provided a lovely contrast to the richness of the filling. Topped with whipped cream and perhaps a few banana slices, it was a treat that felt both special and comforting. Banana cream pie had the added bonus of being versatile. It could be served cold from the refrigerator or even chilled in the freezer for a refreshing twist. While some versions included meringue or toasted coconut on top, the classic banana cream pie was often simply crowned with a fluffy layer of whipped cream. The fresh bananas brought natural sweetness and a subtle texture, while the creamy filling was smooth and indulgent. This balance of light and rich made each bite something to savor. For many families, banana cream pie was more than just dessert. It was a tradition. It brought people together, creating lasting memories at the dinner table. Whether enjoyed after a roast chicken dinner, a casual barbecue, or a holiday feast, this pie was a perfect way to end a meal on a sweet note. Today, banana cream pie continues to hold a special place in our hearts. It's a delicious reminder of simpler times when family meals were filled with homemade touches and desserts like banana. As we've journeyed through these 25 forgotten meals from the 1950s, it's clear that food was more than just sustenance in mid-century American kitchens. These meals represent a simpler time, when families gathered around the dinner table not just to eat, but to share moments of connection and comfort. Whether it was the savory delight of meatloaf, the creamy indulgence of chicken a la king, or the hearty satisfaction of a warm bowl of beef stew, these dishes were the foundation of family life. They were made with ingredients that were affordable, accessible, and often versatile, which made them perfect for busy households. What stands out most about the meals of the 1950s is their warmth and resourcefulness. At a time when convenience was starting to shape the way people cooked, these dishes reflected the balance between homemade care and the rise of packaged foods. Despite the growing popularity of canned soups and frozen dinners, many of these meals were still rooted in tradition, passed down from generations, or shaped by the influences of the post-war world. They were about making the most of what you had and turning ordinary ingredients into something that could bring joy to the whole family. In revisiting these dishes today, we not only reconnect with the flavors of a bygone era, but also with the spirit of the times, one where meals were simple, family-focused, and meant to create lasting memories. Whether you're looking to introduce these meals into your own kitchen, or simply reminisce about the ones that brought comfort to your table, these 25 forgotten meals from the 1950s remind us that food, at its best, is about more than just taste. It's about nourishment, tradition, and the love that fills the spaces between each bite.